Welcome back to Deliverable Coding. So in today's video, we're going to learn about React testing library. So in this video, I'm going to share with you everything I know related to these topics. So let's get started. All right, so here I'm using VS Code, so you can use any ticket that you want. And this is just a boilerplate from Create React app. So as you can see right here, and this is what is the output. And to set up the test with Create React apps, when you do that, it's already do it for us. So we have the setup test right here, and we have one default test right here. And the package that we are using is React testing library with Jest. Everything as you can see right here. So when you create React app, everything is come out of the box for you. And to run the test, you need to do the runs a test if you are using npm, so you can use npm instead. So after you run this one, so as you can see, it said that no test found related to file chain. So usually if you run this one, they maybe target the file chains. So whatever file chain, it's gonna trigger the test that for the file chain. But since we haven't changed anything yet, so that's why we have a bunch of command right here. So you can see if you do A right here to run all the tests. If you do F, it's only the fail test. The Q right here just to quit the watch mode, because right now we are in the watch mode, because so we're gonna watch whatever happened inside our apps, a chain and trigger. This test will run forever. And we do P right here to filter. So we're gonna go through that, and a T right here to filter by test name. Okay. So this is good. So for now, I'm going to press A right here. We're going to run all the tests. So as you can see, it's going to target the app.test.js right here. All right, so let's deep dive down into the app.js. So what it's actually doing. So first we import the things that we're going to use for our test. And then right here, you start writing the test. And so this is like the description of what the test, what your test is. So when you run this one, you can see on the terminal that, okay, this is what we checked. We wanted to test to render the React links. This is like a description, so you can write anything. So, and then we have a callbacks right here, so you can see. And inside here, we render our app. So because if we want to test our app's component, and then we have first to render it, so then we can access to it. Like say, what we have test right here is trying to get the React link right here. So what we do right here is like, okay, after I render, so right now we have render our apps. So inside our apps should have like the text that learns Reacts right here. So that's why we do screen get by text, and then what this will do, it's going to find the element inside the apps component right here. And then we want it to be in the document. So let's say if we go back into our app.js, you will see that, okay, we have this text learn Reacts right here. And let's actually, if somehow I'm going to change this one to learn some things. And as you can see, we hit save this one, we get an error. As you can see, when we render this one, we have learned something, but we're trying to get the get by text, which is learn Reacts, which is false because we don't have this one inside our component, so which is wrong. That's why we have to put it back. All right, so what I'm gonna do next is I want to test this link, not just because as this test right here, what it does, it just, okay, I get this one, and what I wanted to do is have it to be in the document. But what I wanted to do next is, let's say we have this link, I wanted to test that, okay, when we write this link, we have to make sure that our ref attribute is to this this path right here, this URL, and our target is going to be blanks. And that's what our test is. I'm going to write. So we already target our links already. So what we need to do, we need just to do expect. And we need to expect this link element. What we have to do is to have attribute, because as you can see, this everything's right here is an attribute, right? So I can just copy this one, and let's paste it right over here. So and then you can see our test right here in the watch mode. So whatever we change, it's gonna run, and you can see it's passed. Let's say if I do something something to this, and it's gonna false because it didn't match the link that we have written, right? So that is pretty much it. Okay, so next we going to write our one more test for our apps component. So I'm going to write a test for our image, make sure that we have the image inside our components, and make sure it has the right attribute for this one as well. So to do that is really simple. You can just do test, and then it should you can see like here we should render image. That's what we want. And we have a callback, and this one we have to put the render our apps right here. And then let's try to get the image element. So I'm going to do const image elements is equal to, after we do that, we can get screen. Right here you can see there's a bunch of the attribute that you can function that you can try to get. There's get all by text. Everything is just really simple. You can, it's like mainly it's like understand our like self-explanatory, like okay, like gets by role or gets by text right here. Try to get by text. And so maybe mainly what you will be using either get by text or get by testing ID or get by role. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use get by role right here. So our role of the components image right here is, which is going to be image, right? So we can get by roles, and my VS Code is really good at tell me what's all the role for this one. So for me, I'm going to target the image right here. So first I'm going to make sure that the image elements, so I can do expect image elements to be in the document. Okay, so as you can see right now we have that in the document. And the other thing is going to be really simple. So we want to have the image element. So basically we're going to have target attribute as well. The attribute is going to be source, and the value of it is going to be logo.svg. There you go. So right now we pass our test, and both our test is passed. And that's how you write your test. It's really simple. You can either get, so first you render the element, and then you target the, first you render the component, and then next is you target the elements that you wanted to test, and then you write the expected test that you wanted to be test. As you can see, the basic test, we start with test. You can the other thing that you can try to do, you should maybe you can, instead of test, you can do it. So it's the same thing, it will run. And also usually when you do it right here, you can do it should have a render image, something like that. So you can see when you read this line, it makes sense. Okay, it should render image, or you can do it should render, it should render React link. And also you can group this thing as well. So to group it, you can use the describes. I'm gonna do describe right here, and this is gonna be descriptions. And then inside here we going to have the callback. You can cut everything right here, paste right here, and you can write, let's say we gonna, the description of this one, we're gonna test our apps. So this is how you group it. And you can see that we have our apps components, and this is like the link inside this one. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. So the next thing is that what we're gonna do is we're gonna write more tests, write more component, and write more tests for it. All right, so next we're gonna to write tests for this component. So I went ahead and create this one. So this one is a really simple component. So as you can see, it's called count, and we have the state, and we have right here, the first one is going to be the h1 to display the value, and we have to button to actually increment and decrement. So you can see right here when I click plus right here. All right, so let's actually add this one to our app. So let's do count right here, and then you can see that. So as you can see, if I click, and so let's actually write test for this one. Okay, so first before we write test for our count component, we can write test for our apps component, that our app component should render the count as well. So for that, let's go into app.test. Let's actually write one more test for this one. It should render count. And then what we can try to do, we try to select the count, right? Count elements or count component. So I'm going to do like count element, and how to get it by. So because it's a component, there's no text for it. So what we need to do is we need to give the test ID for this one. So I'm going to do data, and then it's going to be test ID. And this is, you can give whatever name you want. I'm going to give it name is count. And inside back our test, instead of get it by role, we wanted to get by test ID. And then you can say right here is going to be count. And what we wanted to do, we want to have the count element inside our document. All right, so as you can see, and then as to be clear is that it should be a component, you can do some things like this. So right now it should render a counts component, which is indeed it has a count component inside our apps. Great. So next, let's focus on writing the test for the count component. First, what you need to do, you need to create a file. So the file is, you need to follow a count, and then you can do like either like specs right here .js, or you do write test. So we want to keep things consistent. I'm going to write test.js, but keep in mind that you can do the spec as well. And if you want to write a test, make sure that you have this following file. So as you can see, when we create this one, our watch test right here is going to filter, it's going to run this one. And as you can see, and right now we don't want to run the app.ts because it's going to slow. If let's say, imagine if you have a lot of files to write. So right now I'm going to filter for this one. I'm going to go P, and then we're going to go source to only the counts component. Right now we got an error because we haven't write anything inside yet. So first I'm going to copy the import everything inside here into here. But instead of app right here, we have count, and then also we have our component right here. So we're gonna do group this one. I'm gonna describe, and then we can do counts right here. This is gonna be the callback. Okay, there you go. So right now we should have our first test case. So first this one is shoot. So what's we gonna have? So first I'm gonna test the h1. So we should have a text to display our count value, right? So it should have text to display count value. So this is going to be a callback. So the first thing that we wanted to do is to render. It's not like this. So we're going to do render our counts component. So render our count right here. So, and after that, what we wanted to target is we want to try to grab this one and make sure that it's in the document. So this one, we're going to do text element, or we can say it like a display element. And then it's going to be equal to screen.get by. So since it's an H1, I can get it by role. And the role of it is going to be heading, right? And so the specs of this one, we want to have specs element first to be in the document. And the other thing is I want to expect to display element right here to have text content. So the text content is going to be 0 because as you can see, the initial value 0, and then we have 0 right here. So as you can see, it's passed our test. So let's say if I change this one to value to 1, our test is going to fail. So you can see we expected 0 but received 1. So right now, that's pretty much it. So right now, we put it back and it passed. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to copy this one and we're going to write one more test for it. is to our component should have two button, and what first button is gonna have like the value of this one, and next is gonna have like the value of the minus. So so then let's do this. So it should, so the description of this is gonna be should have two buttons for this. All right, so first we're gonna render our apps, and then we try to target our buttons elements. So our buttons element is gonna have, since we have multiple buttons, so it's gonna be, instead of get by role, we're gonna do get all by role, and our role is gonna be button right here. There you go. And so from this one, what we wanted to do is really simple. So we can just do expect button element. So button element right here is come when we get all, it's gonna be an array. So it's target by order. So you can do right here. And so this is the will be index 0. This is will be index 1. If you change the order of this one, it will be changed based upon that. So we're gonna have like index 0 to have text content. So they have the text content of this one is gonna be plus. So you can see it's passed. And if I do the minus, and then this one is gonna be index 1 is gonna be minus. That's what it is. So you can see. So let's say if I try to change the order of this one, right now it's gonna be like reverse of this one. So you keep in mind that it says like in particular order of this one. So I'm gonna put it back. So there you go. So right now we have this one. So we have two buttons, and so right now we have tested already. So the next thing is what we wanted to do is to when we click the value, so when I click on the buttons, I want to make sure that it's gonna update the value, right? So I'm gonna write one more test right here. So it should update value when buttons click. Okay, so this one is simple. So we're gonna do the same thing. So you can see, well, first we're gonna render our count component, and then we gonna try to get our button element. So from here I can separate this one. I can do like increments btn is equal to button element index 0, and the other thing is gonna be decrement btn is gonna be buttons elements index 1. So next is what we wanted to do is we want to click. So we're gonna behave like the user to click on each of the button right here. So right now what we can use is gonna be user event. So this is will be import this library user event right here. So what the user event will do, we can do user event dot click increment button. All right, so right now the user is clicked. So what do we expect after the user is clicked? So it's very simple. So first I'm gonna try to get the display element right here as well. And then what we expect is, so we gonna expect the display element to have the content. So let's say if I click on the increment button, the display element, it should increment by 1. So you can see it's passed our test. And if I stimulate the user click even on the decrement button right here, oops, I'm gonna copy this one, and then the value is going to go back to 0. So you can see it's working properly. So we behave also the user click even, it's update the state, and it update our display element. So if I do one more, if I do 2 times, the value shouldn't be 0, it should be -1. So there you go. So that's how you test it. And I think that pretty much it that we wanted to test for our component right here. And also sometimes the message right here, you can be accurate. So maybe my message doesn't make, if it's not make sense, you can try to change this one. Let's say it should update value instead of This one should be by 1 when clicks button. When button is clicked, something like that. So right now, if let's say somehow I change this one to 2, our test is gonna fail. So as you can see, something like that. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. So in this part, we learn about how to test our component with the state and also have a user behavior like to click on the button as well. So on the next part, we're going to test about the fetching the data, getting from the data from the API, and how to mark it and how to write tests for it. All right, so that's pretty much it. See you guys in the next part.